Our first keynote speaker, Jake Reisdorf, the 16-year-old CEO of Carmel Honey Company. Pretty impressive stuff. So we learned about Jake's story through a food tasting for staff last year. We were just eating honey. His mom popped out and said, "I'm so sorry the CEO can't be here to greet you. He's at school, high school." We're like, well, okay, tell us more about your son. This is amazing. So we learned about his story that way. It turns out that project-based learning actually changed his life. So in 5th grade, Jake was tasked with doing a research project that culminated in website development. So that website was meant to showcase his work, what he learned. And his topic, bees. This was new to him. It became an obsession. He eventually became a beekeeper along with his family in the back. So Becky and Jeff, hey. Very supportive family, obviously, so that's very cool. So beekeeping, started selling at farmers market and eventually opened the successful retail enterprise. So today, Jake is gonna kick off our theme, A Thriving Hive, and help us better understand how the NROC community actually embodies a lot of the bee culture qualities that we wanna see. A thriving hive, what happens there? Who's doing what? How do we work together to stay alive and produce? And then also turn us on to some new facts. So without further ado, Jake.
All right, so first off, I'd like to just thank you, Amanda, for that amazing introduction. Really appreciate it. But yeah, my name is Jake Reisdorf. I'm the owner and operator of Carmel Honey Company. I am 16 years old, and I go to Carmel High School. I'm a sophomore there. And really, yeah. Thank you. I'm super excited to be talking all to you today because without the educators in my life, me and this company would not even exist. And I'd also really like to just thank you guys for allowing me to get up today and talk to you. But I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about a couple different things today. First off, my educational journey, how I got started in bees and beekeeping, how this project kind of pretty much changed my life and my family's life. And I'm also going to talk to you guys a little bit about how educators and bees are quite similar. But if you're probably wondering now, actually, how I got started in this company. And really all started off way back when I was in 5th grade. This was back when I was 11. And the teacher went around the room. I know, and the teacher went around the room, and it was at the end of the year, and he wanted to end off the year with a shebang. So he decided to have this project. He assigned everyone different jobs. People got assigned to be architects, building contractors, doctors, and what do you guys think I got assigned to be? Any guesses? Yeah, exactly, website designer. So website designer, I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. You know, I'm supposed to go home, do the basic research on it, see what they did on a day-to-day basis, what they were all about. You know, come back to class, give a PowerPoint presentation on this, you know, about, you know, how much money they made, where they might go to college. And I did that. I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting, but I think I could do more than this. So I went on the World Wide Web and looked up what I could possibly do. And I found this site called GoDaddy. And I went to my mom and I was like, hey, Mom, you know, can I get a domain name and a website and kind of, you know, build my own website? And she's like, oh my gosh, how much is this gonna cost? I'm like, don't worry, it's only 99 cents. And she's like, okay, sure, go for it. So I had to kind of have a name for my website. So I decided, well, you know, it's a company, it's about bees, so, you know, maybe it's about honey. And I live in Carmel, so Carmel Honey Company. That's how my company was born. After that, I kind of made this mock website. It was pretty hokey, honestly. It was just, you know, with some bee facts and that sort of thing on my website. Presented to my friends and peers, and everyone was like, this is amazing. You know, can I buy some honey from you? Are you actually doing bees? How do I find out more? And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, this isn't actually real. This is just my this is my presentation. And they're like, but I want to buy honey from you. And I was like, okay, sure, why not? Let's do it. So I got my first hive, actually pulled out the floorboards of a tough shed, the shock vac. It was like a vacuum basically for bees. Sucked them up, put them in there, and put them into my first hive, and I got started with it. I rolled my whole family into it. I'm like, hey, can we should do this. We should go to farmers markets and start selling the honey. And they're like, okay, if you're gonna do this, you gotta know what you're talking about. So I started going to all these different conferences and talks and learning all these different things about bees and about honey, and I kind of found that people just have this base level of knowledge. You know, it's like, well, bees sting and they make a little honey and that's about it. Well, they do a lot more than that. They pollinate one of every 3 bites of food that we eat. So they're very essential to the type of lifestyle that we lead. And I wanted to share this with as many people as possible. And that kind of, also this is kind of a picture of what my website now looks like. But we're getting it redone, so really excited about that. But yeah, I wanted to share as much information as possible with as many people as possible. So my company was kind of born. I have kind of 3 main points in my company. My premium real raw honey. We try to keep it as real as possible. And we really only started off with wildflower. Wildflower is just a multi-source varietal. It's kind of just whatever's blooming during that time. That was my first honey, though now we have a whole lineup of different types of honeys. And you can actually try that too at our store in downtown Carmel in the Carmel Plaza. So make sure to go and check that out. Yeah. But also my bees and beekeeping. My bees are, of course, essential to my company. I always, they started off as just 1 hive, but now we're up to around 125 hives spread throughout Carmel Valley and down the coast. So we're a pretty small operation, but big enough for just me and my dad to manage. Because right now, I still can't drive, so. I'm working on that. That's my next step, my grand plan. But yeah, and then another big part of my company is my Jake Gives Back. So this is my nonprofit side of my business. And when I first got started, I kind of felt like I had a social responsibility to share my knowledge with the world. And that's what I'm still trying to do today. But I was doing this through mainly talks, so engagements, public speaking. I would pretty much talk to whoever would listen to me. Garden clubs, Rotary clubs, though I was mainly talking to schools. So I usually go back to my elementary school every year and give a talk to the 5th grade class about bees and about honey, and hopefully inspire somebody to start their own company or start keeping bees. We also give a financial donation to bees, to honeybee research and education, because how many people here know that bees are having a hard time right now? Yeah, exactly. And they're mainly, we're losing 45% of our hives every year, and this is mainly due to a thing called colony collapse disorder. Colony collapse disorder is kind of an umbrella term for a lot of different things, which could be pesticides, monocropping, habitat loss. Mites is a big thing. So mites are like these little tick-like things, latch onto the bee, carry a lot of bad diseases with them, and we have no way of killing them or getting rid of them. So that's why we give money back to hopefully fund research and help save the bees. So in learning this new skill, my elementary school teacher told me that I was quite good at it and that I should actually pursue it as a career. And I didn't really believe him at first, but over time I started getting better and better at speaking. And what I kind of found out is that not all speeches are created equal. And those of you who have given speeches before know this. And I kind of found out that sometimes people wouldn't show up. They just wouldn't come, That was actually at a library, and the guy that you see walking back towards us on the left side here is the tech guy, and on the other side is my sister in the corner. And so basically giving a talk to 3 people, right? And one of the guys had already heard my talk before, and he just wanted me to come and talk on another occasion. So basically to 2 people, but I still believe that that was one of my best talks I've ever given to those 2 people. But, and then also down here, this is another talk that I gave at Earthbound Farm Stand. This is in Carmel Valley, but this one was made special by a little kid that was not having the best day. So he was pretty loud. So I had to keep him quiet with the honey stick, but it was definitely an interesting talk. So got to give a shout out to that kid. But I know making your hive thrive is kind of the idea for this conference, and how I kind of make my hive thrive and hopefully allow kids to better learn from me is through the 5 senses. So touch, sight, smell, hearing, and did I miss one? I think I missed one. Taste, exactly. So what I do is sometimes I usually pass around my hive equipment, my tools of the trade. So I have a hive tool, pass around my veil, right, that you can put on. The kids can kind of see how I see into the beehives. The gloves makes a great photo op, and the smoker. I actually just gave a talk last Friday where the kids were just fascinated with the smoker. They just wouldn't let it down. They just wouldn't put it down. It was interesting, but yeah, they like to smell the smoker sometimes, and sometimes they bring in an observation hive, which is, does anybody know here what an observation hive is? No? Anybody? Yeah? Can you tell me what an observation hive is?
It's typically a hive that has a frame to the side where the bees are built on the foundation and it actually see through glass on both sides so that you can see what the bees are doing.
Exactly, yeah. So you can kind of see into the hive and see what's actually happening inside the hive. And the kids really like this because they're able to see what a day-to-day life is for the bee and kind of get up close and personal with them. And I'd actually tell them to put their ear right against the glass and you can actually hear the bees buzzing inside, or some kid actually put their nose right at the air vent to kind of smell what the inside of the hive smells like. And we also do, of course, taste our honey. So we do 4 different varietals. We do sage, orange blossom, wildflower, and meadowfoam. I believe you guys all got a honey in your bag. The little honey, that's the wildflower honey. And we also give out honey sticks as well. So they're able to associate a taste with the talk, because that's how I learn. I learn through food. So. And now when I first got started, I was absolutely fascinated with the community inside the hive and how every time you open up the hive, it's a snapshot in time of what's happening and how the hive can change from day to day. It's kind of like people. How people can always change, hives can as well. They're all unique and different. They all have their own personalities. We call them spicy hives that are a little bit more defensive. And sometimes they're just super relaxed and chill, and sometimes they're not. So every hive is their own unique person. And community. And I believe that we kind of have a hive here. We're all a little bit of a hive because we all are unique and different. And we each have our own way of doing things. And another thing here too is all the bees that you see here are worker bees. So worker bees are they're 90% of the hive, and they go through multiple job stages in their lifetime. So kind of like how we do, like when they first hatch out, they go and clean other cells. We clean our rooms, right? Then they go to feeding the babies, kind of taking care of your siblings. Then they go to drying down the comb, and then to feeding the queen, then to guarding the hive, and then finally out to foraging. All right, so the bees you see out and about are the oldest inside the hive. So I know this is a little bit slideshowy, but you guys are going to learn something today. I should be in school right now. Someone's got to be learning something. So this is my educational slide here that I'm going on. There is 3 types of casts inside the hive. There's the worker bee, the queen, and the drone. So the worker bees are the ones with the barbed stingers. They're all female inside the hive, and they're the ones who do all the work, as their name implies. Then there's the queen. She lays up to 1,500 eggs a day. And she has a curved smooth stinger, so it's usually only mainly one queen in the hive, though if there happens to be more, they'll actually fight to the death over the hive. So I've seen queens with like ripped off legs and bit off antennas, all sorts of stuff. Then finally the drone, they're the males inside the hive. They basically only have 2 jobs, which is to eat honey and mate with the queen. Sound familiar? No? But I personally would not want to be a drone because they get kicked out during the wintertime because they don't do any work and they eat too much. And they don't have a stinger either, so they pretty much have no job. But what I've also found from the bees is that learning is always important. And the best way I like to learn is hands-on. So I go out with a lot of older beekeepers. The average age of a beekeeper is 65. So this top picture right up here, actually I have a pointer, so here we go. Right here was in Hollister. It was 100 degrees out, and I was in a full suit with thousands of stinging insects around, hauling large boxes of honey. Yeah, that was an experience, let me tell you. I got my butt kicked, by the way, too. So I really like to go out with them, and they always teach me something new about bees or about honey. I also really like to go to conferences, both national and international. This picture here with the blue boxes is in Turkey, in Istanbul. And I really like that location because I'm kind of a history buff, and how that was kind of the center of the world back in the day, and how that was kind of the center of the honey industry back in the day as well. So I always learn something new from these conferences. You know, I went to one conference and they were like talking about open heart surgery with using honey. It was like, whoa, it's a little much, but they do all kinds of crazy stuff. And one of the reasons that honey is so important is that it is a antibacterial substance, so it is used in a lot of ERs. But talking about a learning experience, we actually opened a retail store 2 years ago. And man, was this a learning experience. Nobody in my family had ever opened a retail store before, so this was a totally new experience for us. You know, we didn't even know what a POS system was. We had to start hiring people and doing marketing and merchandising, all these different things. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot to take. But we were able to get it done, and it turned out amazing. Like I said, it's in downtown Carmel, in the Carmel Plaza on the ground level, if you want to go check it out. And you can try all of our different honeys there. And one of the things that we found there is in teaching people we needed to educate people about the honey, because a lot of people didn't know that it was a superfood. They're like, oh, when does this go bad? Well, it never goes bad. They've actually found in the Pharaoh's tomb. And they've also, honey is also It helps with allergies. A lot of people know that it helps with allergies and is a natural hydrogen peroxide. So honeybees and educators, these are just some, what I think that they kind of are related. So through collaboration and communication, there's usually 40 to 60,000 bees in each hive, and they all need to communicate and collaborate with each other to be able to survive. Without that, they wouldn't make it. So they are very efficient at what they do, and I think that's very similar to what you guys are doing here, which is all collaborating and educating each other and learning new things. Now my mind instantly goes to a swarm. This is actually a picture of a swarm right here. Where the swarm is actually, a lot of people are like, oh no, it's a swarm. It's like, actually, it's a good thing. It's the bees reproducing. So it's, if a hive gets too full, the queen and half the bees will move on and find a new home. And in doing this, they will all collaborate with each other, talking with each other, and have to come to a decision on where to move to. And I believe here, you guys are all coming to different decisions to help better both on the next generation that is coming up, that you guys are teaching. Also adapting. And overcoming. The bees are constantly adapting, whether it be temperature. So if the hive gets too hot, they will actually go out and find water, take the water and take it and push it onto the outside of the hive, the walls of the hive, and flap their wings to create an interior air conditioner. Or if it gets too cold, they will all group up together and use their body heat to heat the interior of the hive and keep the babies alive. And I think you guys too are always adapting, whether it be a new curriculum or a new different learning device that's coming out. You're always there to adapt and overcome the different scenarios that come at you. And then finally, democracy. So a lot of people think that the interior of the hive is a monarchy because there's a queen. Though that's not really true, because a queen is more of a slave to her own hive. Because if she doesn't produce, if she doesn't lay that 1,500 eggs a day, they just kill her and make a new one. So it's more, yeah, I know, it's pretty cutthroat out there. Cutthroat bee life, right? But the worker bees are all communicating with each other and all need to make those tough decisions on whether or not they need more babies, or whether or not they need drones, or whether or not they need more people out foraging. And I think you guys are the best at making those decisions and being able to do that. So setting goals, I believe that you guys are going to be setting a lot of different goals over these next couple of days. And my dad always tells me that I need to be setting goals constantly. Does anyone know what a BHAG is? Anybody? I think so. Yeah. So it's called a big, hairy, audacious goal. This is my BHAG, pollination world. How many people have been to the Monterey Bay Aquarium? Yeah, a good number of you. So it would be like that, though, instead of for fish, for pollinators. And hopefully this would be a high-tech educational facility that would help educate more people, both kids and adults, on the importance of bees and pollinators. Whether it be bees, birds, bats, butterflies, they're all important. But yeah, make sure to be setting goals. I know you guys will. But that's kind of the end of my presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed that and took something away from it, some type of analogy that you can use for your own lives and in your own working environments. So I'll be answering questions now.